So I just wanted to make a quick video to explain to you your decision-making scenario and how that's going to work next week. The first thing that you need to know about these is the purpose of these is to have you guys decide what skills you're going to be using and then perform them in as much of a real-life environment as possible. So these will be done outside of class. We won't have class on the decision-making scenario day, but you'll get an invite from me to select a time. The second important thing with that to know for your time is you need to arrive about 10 minutes before your scheduled time. And when you arrive, on the door to the lab will be a piece of paper with your name on it and the time for you to take the piece of paper. So at 10 minutes before your time, you get your first set of instructions. And so the first part of the instructions is always the same here. You have 10 minutes to think through the case before your assigned time. As part of this 10 minutes, it is strongly suggested that you think through potential treatment options or skills that you may need to perform based on the patient presentation. Include in your thinking what your findings might mean for the next step of treatment. Create a flow chart of possible evaluation methods, results, treatments, or outcomes. So you don't have to actually create anything, but these are just some advice for you. So you have 10 minutes to kind of get your thoughts in order, come up with some different things that you might want to do, so that way you don't blank. You can check notes. You can really do anything you want to during that 10 minutes, but you only have 10 minutes before your time. So for this first one, you can see the prompt here. You're providing athletic training coverage for a high school basketball game when a frantic mom grabs you from behind. You recognize her and know that in addition to her daughter, who is playing in the game, she also has a middle school son. She is barely able to explain that her son is choking on some popcorn in the hallway and asks you to go check on him. So at this point, you would have 10 minutes after getting this. And so you can think of and review, how do you provide care for a conscious choking kid that is in middle school. Okay. Then I will come get you, usually from out in front in that area. And at that point, you will come into the lab. In the lab will be an individual or a group of people and or mannequins that you'll be performing stuff on. There'll be several cameras set up to record you. We will have you either wearing a mic or have a mic located nearby to record the audio sound. There'll be that blue wall set up to try to decrease distractions, just so you have an idea of what it will look like. But the first thing that we will do is provide an orientation, and this orientation is the same for every single decision-making scenario. So take a second to orient yourself to the equipment available for your use in the room. All equipment that you need has been provided. Do not pretend to use other equipment. You must make do with what is available. So first thing there is there will be equipment available for your use. You should spend a little bit of time looking at that equipment so you know where it is, so you can access that equipment quickly. But the important thing is don't pretend to use other things. So like if you would normally use a reflex hammer, for example, and you don't have one, then you would have to make do with something else. Okay. Second part of the orientation, as for the situation, the scenario proceeds in real time. Do not pretend to fast forward time. If the situation calls for continual monitoring or treatment, proceed as you would normally do. You do not need to explain to the examiners what you are doing. However, you should explain to your patient. You should perform all skills as if this is a real case. Assume that all evaluation or treatment findings that you find on the patient are real, and the examiner will let you know if something is different from what you see or feel. If there's something that you want to observe, just say what you are looking for, and the examiner will let you know if it is present. It's possible the examiner may call a timeout to substitute in a mannequin or other simulation device. However, assume that this will not happen and begin instructing your patient on what you plan on doing and proceed unless a timeout is called. once you have completed your care for this patient may indicate that you are finished, otherwise you'll be notified when the scenario has ended. So the important things here are, first and foremost, you need to treat this as real as possible, right? Don't try to do anything like fast forward time. If you're going to sit there and monitor them, in this case, with a choking individual, if you're going to sit there and monitor and wait for the ambulance to come, then you sit there and wait, and talk to them or do whatever you would normally do. You need to treat this as real. Same thing if you're performing an examination on them. Assume that what you hear from them or what you see or what you find is real. Otherwise, the examiner will tell you if something is different. If there's something you want to look for, in this case, maybe is somebody turning blue. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to simulate that. You can just ask and we would let you know. Also, obviously, at some point in time in this one, it's very likely that there will be a timeout called, meaning that we will switch from a live person to a mannequin. And so you just continue to do what you are doing, explaining to the patient, right, gaining informed consent, good hand hygiene, all that sort of stuff that you would normally do. Explain to your patient, and then I will call timeout and substitute in the mannequin, and you will continue providing care for there. And so we read this to you every time just to give you some chance to remember those things. Next, you will also get more information about the case. So you got a little bit of information to begin with, and now you get more information. It starts with the patient location. On the floor in there will be tape. You need to stay inside the tape, and we remind you that so that way we can record you. We also tell you where these things are. So in this case, we're going to start off with a mannequin, and it'll be on the floor there, and I tell you that that is a hallway. You then get more information in the current situation. As you approach the scene, you see the patient lying flat on their back. There's no immediate danger to yourself or the patient. He appears to be unconscious and is turning blue. A crowd has gathered and all are looking to you for direction. So in this case, you can see, all right, he's already on his back. He appears to be unconscious and is turning blue. You heard that he was choking. There's a crowd gathered there, but you can also tell that the scene is safe because it starts. So as soon as you would say you are ready or we begin, right? Either I tell you to begin or you say you're ready and then I tell you to begin. You would then immediately go up and in this case, probably check to make sure that they are unconscious by shaking their shoulder or something and proceeding from care in that way. The last part that you will get there is the same each time as well. After I have read this entire sheet of paper to you, you have 3 minutes to finish orienting yourself to the simulation. During that time, you can ask me some questions about the simulation. I may or may not be able to answer them as the examiner, but it is also important that you wait to perform any skills or preparation. So if there's things on the table that you would want to use, like, you're going to put on gloves or something, you need to wait until we start to do that so that it is part of the recording and part of the simulation. So you will then go through the simulation being as normal and providing as much care as possible. At some point in time, either you will be done or I will tell you that the simulation has ended, and then that is the end of your simulation. As far as how these are graded, because that's important as well, you will get a score sheet here that will grade you based off of the rubric that's at the bottom. So you're graded on your decision making, your execution, and your patient interaction and or confidence. And so you can see how these are graded with there. I will also give you some feedback as far as strengths and areas for growth for each one of those. And this portion is out of 200. Those scores are a little bit off, but it's out of 200 points. So I will fix that. But this is out of 200, 100 for the decision making, and then I believe, yeah, 40 for the execution and 60 for patient interaction. So make sure you read over the rubric as well so you understand how that works at the same point in time. Afterwards, then you will go to Canvas, and after the assessments are done, you can see here's the first one, but then you also have the peer reviews and your reflections that are also worth 100 points. And so you click on this aspect here, and this is a discussion board. And after the simulation, I will create threads for each of you with your YouTube link. So you need to go in and you need to watch your video about 2 times. Review, and also look at the specific skill sheets from your test outs and all that. In this case, you're going to just be looking straight back at your CPR notes. And then you have to answer each of these questions, and I give you suggested word amounts. First one is talking about your thinking. What were you thinking throughout? What were your initial thoughts? What assessments or interventions did you perform and why? What was your patient's chief concern and what was on the problem list? What were the outcomes? What creativity, modification, deviations from normal did you employ? Right? So you don't have to answer every single one of those questions. In some cases, some of those will be more important than others. And so out of all of the responses for number 1, it's recommended that you have about 500 words. Number 2 is 250, about 500 for 3, and about 250 for your plan for self-improvement. After that, you will also then watch your classmates' videos, and you have some suggested questions there, and you will respond under their thread to each of your classrooms or classmates in about 500 words. So you have a week afterwards. The YouTube links will be posted here with your name. So you will post your response just in the thread, in the discussion thread there for yours as well as for all of your classmates. As always, if you have any questions or anything about this, let me know, but expect to get a scheduling email shortly. Thanks.